Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in life when the gap between who you are and who you want to become becomes impossible to ignore. A moment when the comfort of staying the same becomes more painful than the fear of changing. And today, right now, this is that moment. Because the truth is simple: when you dare to dream big, when you are willing to work harder than everyone else, and when you commit to conquering every obstacle in front of you, nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop you. Dreams are not fantasies. They are the blueprints of your future. They are signals from the strongest version of you calling you forward. But dreaming alone is never enough. Anyone can dream. Few can grind. Few can push through the days when the world feels heavy and everything inside you tells you to quit. But those who do, they build a life that others call impossible. You are here because a part of you knows you are made for more. A part of you knows that your potential is screaming to be unleashed. And the only thing standing between your current life and your extraordinary future is the courage to take action. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, if your dream doesn't make your voice shake when you say it out loud, it's not big enough. Big dreams expand your identity. They pull you upward. They force you to grow, evolve, and tap into abilities you didn't know you had. The size of your dream determines the size of your future. Your biggest competition is the person you were yesterday. Your mission is not to work harder than others. It's to work harder than your doubts, your fears, your excuses, and your past. Discipline is how you show your future self that you are serious. Obstacles are not roadblocks. They are training grounds. Every setback is preparing you. Every challenge is sharpening you. The fire you walk through becomes the strength you carry forward. Instead of asking, why me? Ask, what is this teaching me? You don't conquer your goals through random bursts of energy. You conquer them through daily, unglamorous, unwavering commitment. Small actions done repeatedly create unstoppable momentum. Consistency turns ordinary people into legends. You cannot conquer anything in front of you if you surround yourself with people who limit your vision. Your environment either strengthens your dream or suffocates it. Choose people who challenge you, inspire you, and expect more from you. Success begins with radical responsibility. When you take ownership of your life, your decisions, your habits, your outcomes, you reclaim your power. There's nothing more empowering than realizing that your future is in your hands. Ladies and gentlemen, your dream is waiting. Your greatness is waiting. The version of you capable of conquering everything in front of you is already inside. You just have to unleash it. Don't tiptoe toward your future. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Run toward it. Work for it. Fight for it. Dream big. Work harder. And conquer everything in front of you. Your life can change the moment you decide it will. Today can be that moment. Dreaming big enough to scare you is not about fantasy or exaggeration. It's about expanding the edges of your identity to a point where you can no longer remain who you are. Most people dream within the boundaries of what feels safe, reasonable, or socially acceptable, but that comfort zone becomes a cage disguised as stability. When a dream scares you, it's because it challenges the smallness you've outgrown. It forces you to confront the gap between your current capabilities and the greater potential buried inside you. If that fear is not a warning to turn back, it's a signal that you are standing at the threshold of growth. Dreams that stretch you require you to become more focused, more resilient, more disciplined, and more creative than you have ever been. They make you evaluate the way you think, the way you show up, and the standards you've tolerated until now. Big dreams demand transformation long before they produce results, and that's why they can feel overwhelming. But that overwhelm is simply the mind's reaction to stepping into a future it has never experienced before. When you declare a dream that is bigger than the life you currently live, a part of you wakes up. Your energy rises, your imagination activates, and you begin to see possibilities that were invisible when you were thinking small. The fear that accompanies a big dream is actually the fuel for motivation, proof that you care deeply and that the dream matters to you. It shakes you out of autopilot and forces you to think beyond survival, beyond comfort, and beyond mediocrity. A dream that scares you ignites a fire inside because it shows you a version of yourself that is powerful, unstoppable, and fully alive. That vision becomes a magnet that pulls you through challenges and keeps you persistent when things get hard. Big dreams also expose the beliefs that have limited you. The moment you set a goal that seems too large, your mind begins to protest. Doubts surface, old stories resurface, or excuses attempt to defend the old identity. But this is where the internal battle is won or lost. Every time you choose to push forward despite the fear, you rewrite the script of who you are. You train your subconscious mind to support your growth rather than sabotage it. Instead of asking yourself whether the dream is realistic, you begin asking what version of you is needed to achieve it. That shift in thinking is where breakthrough happens. You start seeking solutions instead of reasons to quit. You begin forming habits, routines, and standards aligned with your vision. You stop negotiating with your limitations and start negotiating with your potential. The beauty of a terrifying dream is that it doesn't allow you to settle. It forces you to rise. It pulls you to action in ways that smaller, safer dreams never will. It compels you to develop courage, emotional strength, patience, and grit. It demands you let go of the people, behaviors, and environments that do not support your future. And it teaches you something powerful. Fear is not the enemy. Settling is. Fear is simply a sign that you are stepping into territory that the weaker version of you could never survive. but the stronger version of you will. When you embrace a dream that scares you, you step into a life that requires you to evolve constantly. You begin living with intention rather than habit, purpose rather than comfort. And slowly that once overwhelming dream becomes your new normal, and you realize it wasn't impossible. It was simply waiting for you to become the person capable of achieving it. Outworking your old self rather than the world is a shift in mindset that changes everything about how you grow, how you perform, and how you achieve. Most people waste enormous energy comparing themselves to others, trying to outrun, outshine, or outdo the world around them. But real growth doesn't happen in the arena of competition with others. It happens in the quiet, honest, uncomfortable battle you fight with the person you used to be. When you measure your progress by someone else's timeline or achievements, you lose focus, you lose clarity, and you disconnect from your own purpose. But when the standard becomes your previous self, your habits, your thinking, your discipline, growth becomes inevitable. You stop seeking external validation and start seeking internal evolution. You stop reacting to the pace of others and begin mastering your own. The real opponent is not the person doing more than you. It's the version of you that settles for less than you're capable of. Every day becomes an opportunity to exceed the limitations you set yesterday. When you commit to outworking your old self, you take full responsibility for your growth. You stop making excuses that once protected your comfort and start looking for reasons to elevate your standards. You begin treating discipline as a promise you make to yourself, not a chore imposed by the world. You become honest about where you are and where you want to be, and that honesty fuels momentum faster than any competition ever could. Consistency becomes less about forcing yourself and more about aligning with who you want to become. You learn to appreciate the slow, steady improvements that nobody notices. You start celebrating the moments when you resist an old habit, push through resistance, or make a choice that your old self would have avoided. These small wins compound into massive breakthroughs, and over time, the distance between who you were and who you're becoming grows wider. Outworking your old self also frees you from the toxic cycle of comparison. When you are focused on outperforming others, there will always be someone ahead of you, someone stronger, faster, luckier, or more experienced. That mindset leads to frustration, inadequacy, and burnout. But when you turn inward and make your progress personal, you create a sustainable, empowering approach to growth. The only question that matters becomes, did I do better than I did before? That singular focus removes pressure and replaces it with purpose. It makes effort meaningful rather than exhausting. You become motivated by your own evolution, not by fear of falling behind. There is also a powerful psychological transformation that happens when you make your past self the benchmark. You begin to detach from old identities that no longer serve you, identities built on fear, lazy insecurity, or self-doubt. Every new step forward rewrites the story you tell yourself about who you are. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who persists, someone who grows. That identity shift is where discipline becomes natural. You no longer need motivation because your actions align with your self-image. You act like the person you are becoming rather than the person you used to be. Outworking your old self doesn't mean pushing until you break. It means pushing until you break patterns. It means choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. It means recognizing that you are capable of far more than your past has ever demanded of you. And every time you surpass your previous limits, no matter how small the improvement, you reinforce the truth that you are not in competition with the world. You are in a lifelong journey of becoming the strongest, truest, and most powerful version of yourself, one day at a time. Turning every obstacle into fuel begins with understanding that challenges are not interruptions to your path. They are the path. Every struggle you face is shaping you in ways that comfort never could. Most people run from difficulty because they associate it with failure, but the truth is that adversity is the greatest sculptor of character, resilience, and strength. When you hit a wall, when you stumble, when you fall flat on your face, you're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're being trained to develop a level of grit, emotional muscle, and mental toughness that you could never build if everything went smoothly. Obstacles reveal who you really are under pressure, but they also reveal who you have the potential to become if you lean into the discomfort instead of avoiding it. The people who rise are not the ones with fewer challenges, but the ones who learn to treat every challenge as raw material for growth. The moment you change the way you interpret obstacles, everything else changes. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, what is this trying to teach me? That single shift turns struggle into strength, fear into fuel, and uncertainty into opportunity. Most breakthroughs are born from moments when everything feels like it's falling apart. It's during these moments that you forge new mindsets, new coping mechanisms, and new levels of persistence that you didn't know you had. Obstacles force you to upgrade your strategies, stretch your abilities, and rethink your approach. They expose your weaknesses so you can strengthen them, and they reveal your strengths so you can rely on them. Every setback becomes a stepping stone, every failure becomes feedback, and every challenge becomes part of the story that eventually empowers you. When you begin to see obstacles as fuel, you learn to anticipate resistance. You stop expecting the journey to be easy and start expecting it to be worth it. Success requires sacrifice, and obstacles are the checkpoints that test your commitment. They ask you whether you truly want what you say you want. They ask whether you are willing to grow, adapt, and push beyond your comfort zone. When you rise to meet these tests, you build an inner foundation that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. You become someone who trusts their own ability to overcome. You become someone who doesn't panic when life gets messy because you've learned to see the gift inside the struggle. The most powerful people you know didn't get there because everything went right for them. They got there because everything went wrong, and they chose to rise anyway. They turned heartbreak into empathy, failure into wisdom, frustration into patience, and struggle into strength. They didn't avoid the hard parts of life. They embraced them. When obstacles knocked them down, they didn't see it as a signal to quit, but as a reminder to get back up stronger. They used adversity as motivation, not discouragement. They used setbacks as a reason to fight harder, not walk away. They trained themselves to convert pain into purpose, and that mindset is what separated them from everyone else who let challenges break them. Obstacles also introduce you to a version of yourself you wouldn't meet otherwise. The version that keeps going when your emotions say stop. The version that stays focused when everything around you tries to distract you. The version that proves you are far more capable, resilient, and resourceful than you ever realized. When you push through difficulty, you don't just overcome the obstacle, you overcome the old identity that couldn't handle it. You emerge stronger, wiser, and more confident. You begin trusting not the path, but your ability to walk it. And that trust becomes the fuel that carries you through every challenge ahead, transforming each obstacle into a building block for the life you're determined to create. Consistency beating intensity is one of the most overlooked truths of success because most people are conditioned to believe that greatness comes from dramatic bursts of effort or sudden waves of motivation. They think transformation is born from massive action taken all at once. But real progress, deep progress, the kind that rewires your habits, reshapes your identity, and creates lasting results, comes from showing up day after day, even when the excitement fades and the energy is low. Intensity feels powerful in the moment, but it burns out quickly. Consistency, on the other hand, builds momentum quietly, steadily, and unshakably. When you commit to small, repeated actions, you build discipline without relying on emotional highs. You create patterns that your brain begins to recognize as non-negotiable, which ultimately leads to mastery. You move from trying to change your life to becoming someone who naturally lives differently. Intensity is seductive because it gives the illusion of progress. It feels dramatic, meaningful, and exciting. But when life gets busy or motivation dips, intensity becomes fragile. It collapses under pressure. Consistency doesn't depend on feeling ready or inspired. It depends on commitment. It depends on routine. It depends on the willingness to take imperfect action even when it feels insignificant. It's the promise you make to yourself that you will not abandon your goals simply because the emotional rush isn't there. Consistency is the discipline of repetition, and repetition is how you carve new neural pathways that turn effort into instinct. It is how you transform new behaviors into a lifestyle rather than a temporary push. When you prioritize consistency, you stop treating success as an event and start treating it as a process. You stop looking for shortcuts and start embracing the long road. You stop sprinting and collapsing and begin pacing yourself for the marathon. The small actions you repeat daily become the bricks that build the foundation for everything you want. Whether it's improving your fitness, sharpening your skills, developing your mindset, or creating a new future, the power lies in the habits you reinforce every single day. These habits compound. A small step taken today doesn't just move you forward, it sets the stage for a bigger step tomorrow. The compounding effect turns minimal progress into massive transformation over time. Consistency also builds a powerful form of self-trust. Every day you show up, even in a small way, you send a message to yourself, I follow through. This message reshapes your identity. It rebuilds confidence. It strengthens your belief in your ability to succeed. You stop relying on external motivation because you begin trusting your internal reliability. Over time, the goal becomes less about achieving something external and more about maintaining alignment with who you want to be. Consistency keeps you grounded in your purpose, focused on your vision, and connected to your future. Where intensity leaves gaps, consistency fills them. It shows you that success is not about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing something persistently. Most people fail not because they lacked ability, but because they couldn't stay consistent long enough to see the results of their effort. They quit when the journey became ordinary. They stopped when the excitement wore off. But the people who keep pushing through the mundane, through the quiet days, through the moments when nothing seems to be changing, those are the ones who break through. They understand that greatness grows slowly, quietly, and invisibly before it becomes visible to the world. Consistency is the discipline of staying committed long enough for your actions to accumulate into something undeniable. It's the difference between temporary progress and permanent transformation. It's the difference between wishing for a better life and building one from the ground up. Building an environment that demands growth starts with recognizing that the people, places, and influences around you shape your identity far more than you may realize. You can have the strongest ambition in the world, the clearest goals, and the deepest desire for change. But if your environment pulls you backward, it becomes almost impossible to move forward. Human beings naturally adapt to the expectations and energy around them. If you spend your time with people who complain, procrastinate, make excuses, and settle for average, you will inevitably start mirroring those patterns. Not because you're weak, but because the environment sets the standard. And if that standard is low, you will unconsciously shrink yourself to match it. But when you surround yourself with people who aim higher, think bigger, and demand more from themselves, you begin to rise to meet that level. Growth becomes the norm, not the exception. You start to challenge yourself not because someone forces you to, but because excellence becomes part of the air you breathe. Your environment is not limited to people. It includes your habits, routines, physical spaces, and even the content you consume. Everything you allow into your daily life either supports your future or sabotages it. Growth requires clarity, focus, and energy, and your environment influences all three. A chaotic space creates a chaotic mind. A routine filled with distractions chips away at your discipline. A life surrounded by negativity drains the energy you need to pursue your goals. But when your environment is intentionally designed to elevate you, it becomes a silent partner in your success. It reinforces your values, strengthens your mindset, and keeps you aligned with your vision. You start waking up differently, thinking differently, making decisions differently because the environment around you supports the best version of you instead of the weakest. There will be moments when creating this kind of environment requires letting go. Letting go of relationships that drain you. Letting go of conversations that poison your focus. Letting go of habits that keep you stuck. Letting go of old versions of yourself that no longer fit the future you're building. These choices aren't easy, but they are necessary. Growth rarely happens without some form of separation. When you release what limits you, you create space for what strengthens you. And in that space, you begin to attract people and opportunities that align with your higher standards. You begin meeting others who challenge your thinking, expand your vision, and hold you accountable to your potential. These are the people who will tell you the truth instead of sugarcoating it, who will push you forward instead of pulling you down, and who will remind you of who you are capable of becoming when you forget it yourself. An environment that demands growth also forces you to raise your standards. When the people around you are committed to excellence, mediocrity becomes uncomfortable. When your routine is structured around progress, laziness feels out of place. When your physical space reflects order, purpose, and focus, distractions lose their power. You begin expecting more from yourself, not out of pressure, but out of alignment. You see others striving, building, evolving, and you naturally elevate your own behavior to match that energy. Growth becomes a daily requirement rather than an occasional intention. Choosing such an environment is one of the most powerful decisions you can make for your future. It shapes your mindset, influences your identity, and determines the direction of your evolution. Your environment whispers to you constantly, shaping your beliefs and behaviors in ways you don't always notice. When it is designed for growth, it becomes a quiet force that strengthens your discipline, expands your ambition, and primes you for the next level of your life. Over time, you realize that your environment doesn't just influence your growth, it accelerates it, amplifies it, and makes it unavoidable. Owning your results, good or bad, is one of the most empowering decisions you can make because it places the steering wheel of your life firmly in your own hands. Many people spend their lives searching for someone or something to blame when things go wrong. They point at circumstances, luck, childhood, timing, or other people's behavior as a reason for where they are. But the moment you choose responsibility over excuses, everything changes. You move from being a passenger in your life to being its driver. You stop waiting for things to improve on their own and start creating the progress you want. Responsibility transforms your life because it forces you to acknowledge a powerful truth. If your decisions got you here, your decisions can get you somewhere better. Ownership is not about guilt or self-blame. It's about reclaiming control. It's the realization that every choice contributes to your outcomes, and therefore every outcome can be changed by making better choices. When you own your results, you become honest about your habits, your effort, your mindset, and your patterns. You begin to recognize where you've been holding yourself back. This honesty is uncomfortable, but it is also liberating. You can't change what you refuse to acknowledge, and responsibility is the doorway to transformation. Taking ownership also builds confidence in a way that nothing else can. When you know that your actions create your results, you stop feeling powerless. You stop surrendering your future to chance or to the behavior of others. You start trusting your ability to improve your life through discipline, consistency, and focus. Every win becomes proof that your effort matters. Every loss becomes a lesson that strengthens you. You no longer fear setbacks because you've learned to extract wisdom from them. You stop running from your mistakes because you understand they are stepping stones, not sentences. When you take full responsibility, you also eliminate excuses. Excuses are the stories that protect your limitations. They give you a temporary sense of comfort, but a lifetime of regret. Responsibility forces you to confront these stories and rewrite them. It forces you to stop saying, I can't, and start asking, how can I? You shift from victimhood to problem solving, from avoidance to action, from doubt to determination. Your energy becomes focused on solutions rather than distractions. You stop waiting for motivation because responsibility creates its own momentum. Owning your results also means owning your potential. When you realize you have the power to change your finances, your health, your relationships, your habits, and your surroundings, you begin to take your future seriously. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You begin setting higher standards for yourself because you understand that the quality of your life mirrors the quality of your decisions. Responsibility becomes the foundation for every goal you pursue. It becomes the anchor that keeps you stable through adversity and the fuel that drives you when your emotions fluctuate. People who own their results are unstoppable because they refuse to give away their power. They don't wait for permission, luck, or perfect conditions. They act, they learn, they adjust, they grow. They understand that the only person fully accountable for their destiny is themselves. And once you embrace that truth, excuses lose their meaning, obstacles lose their intimidation, and your future becomes something you build rather than something you hope for. No matter what your past looks like, responsibility gives you the authority to rewrite your story and become the person you were always meant to be.